Welcome to Just Men, a life changing program that resonates hope as well as encouragement. The program that gives you information and inspiration for the glory of God. I'm your host, Jeff Tate, and thank you for joining Just Men. On today's program, we have a very special guest. This is his first time being on Just Men. Please welcome Tay SWEAT. Brother SWEAT, welcome to Just Men.
Thanks for having me.
Man, it's
Yes,
a
sir.
tremendous blessing. Let me say on the onset that you add value to Just Men, and we appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to dive into this thing called health. But before we get into the meat, speaking of meat, vegetables of our dialogue, let's share a little bit about your story and who is Tay SWEAT.
Basically, I am a product of a single mother coming from inner city, no nutritional background, basically, wasn't taught how to eat. And around 15, I ended up being about 300 pounds, okay? And I was fed up, and I knew this was not life. So at that point, I was in 9th grade. I decided, hey, we're gonna start learning. I started studying. Every class I took in high school, I was studying on how to actually lose weight. So I did that for about 3 years and dropped about 110 pounds. Got down to about 190 and started playing basketball more. I got back into the groove of things, lived a healthier life. This led me to get into the vegan lifestyle once I realized that that was actually what we should be doing as humanity. And I'll touch more on that as we get into it.
So what is the vegan lifestyle? I mean, what is that? I mean, take the mystery from me away from, because I have no idea what vegan lifestyle is.
Vegan lifestyle basically is no animals, no consumption of any animal products, no dairy, no eggs, no meats. And you get some vegans who actually don't even wear leather. I personally did this journey for my health, so I focus more on what I put in my body, not so much on my body. So this is where pretty much we cut out everything. We eat mostly fruits and vegetables, grains, nuts, and other seeds like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. And that's where you get a lot of your protein, other things. So.
Wow, yeah. Now, I want to dive, because I really want to spend some time on this health thing. I did some Q&A with you offset. And so let's talk a bit about your presentation and what is some of the things that when you were talking to people about health, let's start from the top of this pyramid and kind of come down and educate me in terms of health and what is it that we're eating that actually pulls away from our health from that standpoint. So we'll start with broad and we'll dive into some of the specific areas of health issues.
Absolutely. From my studies, from all the, I have over 10 certifications with, nutrition and just body science. And from my studies, from my training, I've come to a conclusion that everything that we deal with as a human race, as far as sickness and health, has to do with what we put in and on our bodies. And what I mean by this is just simply eating some of the foods that aren't actually for our body. And the reason I say it like that is because some things we've been told, hey, you can eat, it's good for you, oils, other fried foods, sugars, but a lot of these things actually aren't good for us, and it's causing degenerative diseases. So I like to start from a simple point of a simple process of elimination, and then we go from there, okay? Nothing too crazy, nothing too extreme, because it definitely takes a process. It took me over 6 years to get to where I am now. So.
Yeah, so you mentioned something, and we'll start from there in terms of this congestion or I think what you call
constipation.
Liquid constipation.
Liquid constipation.
Talk a little bit about liquid constipation and what are the effects of that, and then how health can reverse or change that. And so we'll start there.
Absolutely. So when we're dealing with constipation, we often think of constipation as a bowel movement that actually isn't happening, basically. And constipation is much deeper than that. The body is a full tube. It's a system of flowing energies, flowing blood, water, air. And when the body's constipated, you get a lot of blockage into certain arteries, into certain extremities. This is why certain people's arms fall asleep. This is where erectile dysfunction comes from. This is where a lot of things come from. And it's literally because of the liquid manure that's sitting in the body. Now, when I speak of liquid manure, this is because a lot of foods that we eat aren't being digested. The average man only uses the restroom as far as a bowel movement every other day, and sometimes even worse than that. I've seen cases where it's only once a week. And what this does is everything that this person's eating stays in the body, it rots, and it actually turns into liquid poop. And this poop gets into the body, into the bloodstream, sorry. And when it gets into the bloodstream, it's very thick. And the blood is trying to, or the heart is trying to pump this thick blood throughout the body, through these small capillaries and small vessels. And this is what causes the congestion or the constipation. And it just wrecks the system. This is where high blood pressure comes from. This is where all of your other, like I said, your ED or any other issues that anybody may be dealing with is constipation of the body.
Wow. Talk about some specific ailments, particularly I know you talk about erectile dysfunction and what many times that's caused. I know that I had told you that I had been diagnosed with low testosterone, and you talked a little bit about that. But we'll start with some of the issues, health issues in terms of women as well as men.
Yes, sir.
Women, I know that many women have come across fibromyalgia, and you talked a bit about that. Give some insight to the health issues of that and what could be attributing cause to.
Absolutely. So fibromyalgia is an inflammation of the gut. And honestly, from many studies now that are out, the gut is literally behind all diseases. Every disease starts in the gut. And fibromyalgia is an inflammatory issue. So this is caused by a congestion or a constipation of the lymphatic system and other digestive extremities. So when you're dealing with the lymphatic system, your main dumping point is right at the underarms and the feet, okay? And this is why a lot of body odors and other things come out of the arms, because whatever's sitting in the body will leave throughout the arms and the pores. The skin is the third point of exit of the body. So if you're not having a regular bowel movement and you're not getting the correct nutrition and liquids in the body for proper urination, then it's coming out of the skin, okay? So a lot of the waste we're dealing with comes literally from the arms. And this is where body odor comes from. Remember I told you that liquid manure is sitting in the body. And whatever you put in, that if you could sit on the table would stink, if it's in the body still, that would stink as well. So these odors are coming out. And that's literally what's causing most of our issues, okay? And I tell a lot of people, if you cut certain foods out and we got rid of the liquid manure, you wouldn't need deodorant, you wouldn't need perfumes, colognes, and other things, okay? And this could also help to reduce and possibly even improve fibromyalgia and other gut issues.
Wow, man, it's great. I know you're saying from a personal standpoint, you do not wear deodorant, and how because of the intake. I mean, you kept constantly telling me about that you are what you eat.
Yes, sir.
So talk a bit about that concept, particularly as it relates to what people are eating today and how it's affecting their health.
Well, one of my biggest quotes, if you will, is you are what you eat, and most of us are eating women, or females, should I say. And what I mean by that is almost every animal we eat in society is a female. Cows, chickens, or hens. You're dealing with other animals such as lamb, even going into the other ducks and all types of animals. They're mostly laying eggs or producing milk. These are females. With that being said, you have female sex hormones in the meat. And when a man eats female sex hormones, you get a high level of estrogen. And when you get this much estrogen, the testosterone is pushed down, the estrogen takes over, and then you start to get female-like qualities. Okay, if you ever see a man walking around with round hips, a round or more plump face, okay, because we're actually supposed to have like the chisel face, okay, chisel features. So a lot of these features, you know, man boobs, things like that, it's a byproduct of what we're eating. It's not so much fat, it's just the sexual hormones, okay? So this is what we're dealing with. And that's one of the biggest reasons why I had to put it down.
Wow, because of, well, you know, I guess, like I said, we want to keep it 100.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I mean, many times I do see men that have some very feminine qualities. And it's not necessarily because of their sexual orientation that they chose, but a lot of, like you said, is the eating, the byproduct of that eating. Now, you said something also is kind of profound, and I want to dive into that, dealing with intimacy or dealing with sex, and how that can also impact men when they're not getting the right nutrients and the right supplements in order to counteract that. So talk a bit about what you shared with me in terms, because I know that's going to raise
Oh yeah,
the
absolutely.
attention in terms of men. And we talked
Oh,
about
yeah.
women and fibromyalgia. Okay, yeah, but what about men? So let's talk
So
about
like
men.
we were talking about earlier, when a man has sex, which the average man pretty much has too much sex for the diet that he's eating. And when a man has sex and he ejaculates, he puts so much stress internally on the body that he can't handle it. And he doesn't realize it at the moment. But one ejaculation is equivalent to 20-mile run internally. So if I was to run 20 miles, my organ systems would be pumping. Okay, they'd be full steam. So this is what's going on with a man every time he ejaculates. And some men may do this 3-4 times a week without replenishing the body with what it needs. This causes the prostate to grow, okay, which is a huge issue in our community, is prostate cancer or just enlarged prostates, especially in men over 50. So this causes prostate issues. This causes a lot of erectile dysfunction issues, because if you're not giving the body what it needs, it can't operate correctly. The actual equation for a man to, I guess, schedule his sexual activity is based on his age. You want to do your age times 0.2, and this is how many days you should go between ejaculating.
Man, you got me in calculator, man. Hold on here. I mean, some probably try to redefine that, so I don't know. They may want some scientific proof from you on that.
Oh, yeah,
in terms of,
absolutely.
but I think it's so powerful in terms of the replenishing part when you're talking about. And you said also that in terms of not only just the prostate being enlarged, but also in terms of the colon, the effects on the colon. Talk a bit about that and how they are interconnected.
Oh, yeah. So they're all connected, of course, like we talked about. And another issue with the liquid manure is that a lot of bacteria gathers in this liquid manure. So let's just say, for instance, we'll give an example. Let's just say I had a steak, which would probably kill me right now. But if I eat a steak on average takes about 3 to 5 days to digest. The steak goes in my system, it sits there for 3 days, and it starts to rot and putrefy. By the time it makes it down to my colon, it's rotten meat, and most meats have lots of parasites. So these parasites are now in my colon. These bacteria and other, waste materials are literally sitting in my colon and my intestines. And this causes a horrible, horrible issue, because now you're backed up, 1. 2, you have other parasites and bacteria feeding off of certain things in the body, which is not healthy at all. And like we talked about, the prostate, the colon, everything is right in that area. So this can affect sexual activity once again. So you definitely want to watch, 1, the colon and what you eat. And 2, you definitely want to watch how you're having sex and what you're putting in the body after and even before you have sex. Things like saw palmetto, which we talked about, tribulus, and other things can help to replenish the sexual organs and actually help to keep you in the bedroom a little more.
Yeah, I know you talked a little bit about one of the things, because I was giving you some various scenarios to how you can improve. So I want to kind of shift a little bit in terms of talking about improvement, what you can do to improve or shift, what's going on in your body if you've been on this long journey of not eating the right foods and not digesting, the things that you need to in order to have a temple.
Right.
The Word of God says that we are the temple of
Yes,
God.
sir.
We
Yes,
are
sir.
His habitation. And as His habitation, many times we are not taking care of this temple. So talk a bit about some of the issues in terms of what we can do to change or make that shift. Some of the simple things we can do, like to start. I know one of you said was dairy.
Yes.
I want to talk a bit about the impact of dairy and then how you can shift that in terms of getting on the right path.
Now, of course, we started with dairy because I don't believe in actually drinking another animal's milk, because it has information for the child of that animal. So a cow, you have a baby calf, and the baby calf takes in the milk of information to say, hey, grow into a 900-pound cow, grow into an animal that walks on 4s. All of these things are contained inside of the milk. So when we take in the milk, we're taking in this information. Be 900 pounds, okay, and all these other things. So I don't really believe in it, 1. And 2, it's been pasteurized. Most milks are pasteurized at such a high level that is nothing left but pus cells, honestly. And this causes a lot of mucus build up in the body. You hack up a lot, or you may cough, you may have clogged nasal passages, other things like that. 9 times out of 10 is dairy or eggs that can cause these things. And just at least cutting down on it, not even eliminating, but cutting down dramatically on those foods can really make a big difference, even for people who have things like irritations when they go outside, like itchy nose, itchy eyes, scratchy throat, things like that. You know, say, oh, I have allergies. Stop eating and drinking dairy products. I guarantee you it'll really help. Guarantee.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I deal with these allergies quite often, and I'm glad you said that. Now you're hitting home on eggs. I mean, I'm gonna have to take some real. As one of the brother Ron who talks about practicing the presence of God. I'm gonna have to practice the presence of God on those eggs, man, and the discipline. But again, we are the temple of God, and we need to take care of that. Dive in more in terms of some of the things that people can do, or the foods they eat to make this shift. You said starting out gradually and then building up. I mean, maybe not becoming a total vegan, but still going on the pathway. Share some more thoughts and what you share even in your presentation, because you do presentations.
Yes, sir.
And so talk a bit about what you kind of hit home on to educate people about their health.
Okay. In my day-to-day presentations and things like that, I normally suggest that we eat a little more fruits and vegetables. You don't have to eat a lot, but getting in those fruits and vegetables first thing in the morning, is going to be pivotal to our health. And the reason being is because when we eat those fruits, they have the enzymes that we need to help digest foods. So when we put the meat in, we can actually have some enzymes down there waiting to help digest the food. Wow. And the reason why this is very, very important is because the meat, when we cook, in our society we eat a lot of cooked foods. And when we cook food over 115 degrees, we kill all enzymes in the food. So the body needs enzymes to help digest certain foods, or all foods. If they don't have the enzymes, the body will rob itself of certain enzymes. So by helping the digestive system, it's going to pull from something else. And a lot of times these enzymes come from hair growth, gray or melanocytes, which are responsible for the color of melanin in the skin, color in the hair. So this is where gray hair comes from a lot of times, especially in younger people. So we definitely need the enzymes. The next thing I would take from that is we'll go have a smoothie. Try to eliminate your dairy, your eggs, in the breakfast meals. We don't want to do any eggs. I don't like eggs because it's an unborn chicken's fetus, okay, or a period even, okay? It's a chicken's period. It's an egg. And I wouldn't eat a woman's egg, so I don't want to eat a chicken's egg. So that's one reason why I just did away with eggs. And milk as well, because I'm not a cow and I don't want to be a 900-pound cow, okay? The next thing is to, cut meat back at least to about once a day. Although I'm vegan, meat is still going to be part of our society, and I don't encourage everybody to just get rid of it. It's a slow process, and I definitely encourage that you take it slow, because like I said, it took me 6 years to get to the point that I am now. In our society, if we literally just cut back to one meat meal a day, we could probably improve half the diseases and illnesses that we're dealing with now.
Wow. I know it's one of the things you talk about, the gut. A lot of men are carrying a lot of weight in their gut. How can they sort of reverse that process in terms of slimming that down and obviously going against the grain of that of those diseases that starts? You talk about.
That's a great question. Great question. The reason why it's so great now, I love it, is because every inch, and this is proven scientific study, every inch that a man's stomach is wider or bigger than his chest gives off maybe about 5 years of his life. So if he has 5 inches over his chest, he has about 25 years taken off of his life.
Wow.
So this is very important. And a lot of times you see the men with the flat chest and then the huge gut. Well, this lets me know 2 things. One, that's not fat. A lot of it isn't. We call it beer belly, okay? It's just waste. And one, we've probably taken in too much yeast, which that's all beer is a yeast milkshake, okay?
Wow.
It's a yeast milkshake. And as gross as it sounds, you wouldn't eat yeast from a woman. Don't eat yeast from something else. That's just my take on that, okay? Yeast is not good. I don't care for it. That's my opinion. And with the gut, it just goes back into the whole enzyme, situation. We aren't eating enough enzymes by way of raw fruits, vegetables, things like that. So this food sits in the gut for sometimes years. I've had a client that had to have his stomach pumped, and the doctor basically took out 4 gallons of food that wasn't digested. And the doctor was pointing out certain foods that were still in, and the guy was telling the doctor, I hadn't eaten those foods since I first met my wife 16 years ago. So wow. 16 years of food was in this man's gut. That's what causes most of our issues, okay? Because if you leave anything in the body for 16 years, you're going to get sick, okay?
Wow.
That's just how it happens. So that's a big way we can get rid of the big guts. It's just by putting in more raw fruits, raw vegetables, and letting the body take its course. You should be having a bowel movement every meal. Wow. If you eat one meal, you should have a bowel movement soon after. And if not, we have an issue.
Wow.
There's some congestion in there. So.
Wow, that's good. Now, explain the importance of fasting and how does fasting plays in this part. I mean, I know you fast a certain part of the day, each day,
yes, every day.
In terms of that. I remember on a sabbatical when I was fasting just for spiritual connection, right? To be in alignment with God and to really hear God and get rid of the noise many times that, we encounter. And man, I'm telling you, I mean, the first 2 days was tough, but when I got into that third day, I just fell into a zone, and I had such a keen awareness, even when I was reading the Word, even when I encounter typical friction, with relationships, it didn't bother me near as much because I was in this state of being, in this state of zone, because I was emptying out.
Yes,
I was emptying.
Yes,
so
sir.
I learned the principle that emptiness is fullness. And so that's something. And so talk to me a little bit about fasting and what does that mean in terms of your health?
Just to give you a little background about myself with fasting, yes, I fast pretty much every day for at least 20 hours. Every day I skip lunch, breakfast, and sometimes I may even go through dinner. So I do 36-hour fast, 48-hour fast every now and then, just to give the body the break it needs. Because in our society, we eat way too much, way too many calories. Food is fuel, and a lot of times we're not using the fuel, but we're still taking it in. It's like an unlimited gas tank. Okay? And this is the reason why we fast, or why we should, because the body is set with nature. Because you have 24 hours in a day, sun up, sun down, and the body has 24 hours internally. And it's split into 3 8-hour windows. The first window is the window of purging, okay? It gets rid of everything, and this is in the morning between the hours of 3 a.m. to 11 a.m. This is why we wake up and we pee and we poop, okay? Because the body's getting rid of all the junk that it doesn't need or that it can't use. It should be. The next feeding period is what I call it, is between the hours of 12 or high noon and about 7, 8 p.m., depending on where you are, sunset. The reason why this is perfect feeding time is because the sun gives us energy as well. So not only do we have our body working on digesting the food, but the sun helps us to digest the food. So this is a perfect time to eat. Once you finish eating at about 8, the digestive system clocks out, says I'm done. So anything you eat after 8 p.m. is pretty much stored for the next day, won't be digested. And the reason being is because now the body's shifting into a utilization period. And now it's saying, okay, we're going to take this, and this is good, this is not. So we're separating the good from the bad and getting the body ready to get rid of the bad for the next day. So this is why we need to fast. We need to give the body the chance to get rid of the foods, because when you break the fast or have breakfast, break fast, you stop this period of purging or getting rid of the fat and the waste. So you definitely want to skip breakfast at least.
Wow. So what is this, educationally, I hear breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So talk to me about that, and how did that come about in terms of nutrition and the things that you're saying?
Well, when we, in certain societies, we come from a Western standpoint, and you have 2 totally different approaches. And honestly, I think where that one comes from is the scarcity mentality that we have in the Western society. We're scared to be hungry. We're scared to be broke. We're scared, okay? So it's eat as much as you can while you can, because you don't know how long you're going to have it, and make as much money as you can because you don't know how long you're going to have it. So I think it honestly it has to do a little bit with the scarcity mentality. Because also when you fast or you aren't eating, we also think, hey, what's wrong? Why aren't you eating? Are you broke? Do you need something? Can I give you some food? And this is kind of something we play, off and on in our heads. So I think it just has to do with the social conditioning we've been, given, one. And two, I honestly think that certain institutions have a interest in telling us to eat breakfast, okay? Whether it's selling us extra, meals, selling us extra food, selling us extra medicine. Because if I told you that taking away breakfast could help your health, then maybe you wouldn't need medicine or certain medicines. So it's just all about your approach, and depending on where you come from, as far as school of thought, that has a lot to do with whether you should eat breakfast or not.
Wow, that's beautiful. I know in our last minute, I want to talk about the effects of food on the mind. Because many of us have made our mind our God to a large degree, and so yet I always think of the analogy of my vehicle. One of my vehicles, it has 93 octane, and I don't even look at anything lower than 93. When I go to the gas pump, I'm oblivious to anything other than 93 octane. But yet, same way in here, we put a lot of junk in our mind and a lot of junk in our body that is not at the octane level to keep this temple running at high energy, right? And so we're wondering why we're not having the discernment or hearing God's voice and getting in the presence of God and avoiding temptation. One of the things that I know that if I put low octane in this temple, temptation, man, can come on me so quick and easy.
Yes,
and I go, where did that come from? And why am I pulling towards you, right? I mean, in terms of that, because I've been putting the wrong fuel in my body. So talk a little bit about the mind, the effects of food and what it plays on the mind.
I often say that the human body is $1 billion machine. And right now we're giving $1 billion machine, we're feeding it a dollar menu. Okay? I'm not going to touch more on that, but we're feeding $1 billion machine sludge, junk, and other things. And just like I told you that this liquid manure that's sitting in the body and gets in the blood, well, this blood runs all the way throughout the body. So now you have poop running through the brain. Yeah, just sit on that for a while, okay? That's just, you can't even imagine that, right? So what happens is a lot of times we're junking up the brain with poop that should never even make its way up there.
And I know that many men will be empowered by what you said, from everything from what's affecting their mental health, their physical health, and I think it definitely ties into the spiritual health. It's all one body, it's all one spirit, it's all one man. You are God's best, man, and we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Stay focused.